After the Smurfs crashed the most miserable Sweet 16 ever seen at Dignity Health Sports Park, LA Galaxy and their supporters find themselves deep in a seemingly endless dark void of doubt and shame. Staggering into town with their own issues, with only one win in their last nine matches, is RSL, Real Salt Lake, who is looking to bounce back with a win over LA Galaxy. Will RSL sink the Galaxy even deeper, or will they stare into the void and find the Galaxy staring back? Let's get into it.
You're tuned into news across the galaxy where they talk all things LA Galaxy with the Nag Boys. Let's start nagging.
And a good evening to you wherever you might be, and welcome to News Across the Galaxy's The Midweek Show, coming to you live from NAG Studios East. I'm your host, Edgar Zuniga, with my NAG bro Chacho on the ones and twos, Brian Lobos. There we go, yeah. On tonight's show, we're going to talk about the fallout of the loss to San Jose Earthquakes, preview this weekend's match against RSL, and to help us do all that, coming at us live from the home of the Mammoth, please give a warm welcome to our featured guest and good friend of the show, host of the RSL show on KSL 102.7 FM, right?
It's close enough.
11:20, whatever. It's Alex. I drink my beer out of prosthetic leg, Napoles.
I don't do that, but I'm always happy to jump on with you guys and be able to talk some soccer. So thanks for having me on again, as always, Edgar.
Hey, welcome to the show, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us. For those who do not know, and I got to discover this when I went with you to that LA Kings versus Utah Mammoth now, right? Mammoth hockey match way back in April. There's like a special tradition that Utah hockey fans do. Well, one particular Utah hockey fan. Can you explain the whole prosthetic leg thing? 'Cause that was a trip, man.
So inaugural day, inaugural game for the Utah Hockey Club at that time. There was a woman in the crowd that had a prosthetic leg, and she chugged a whole beer out of that prosthetic leg, and it's just become a tradition that every single game, I'm pretty sure she's a season ticket holder because she's there every game, and every game that they, get her up on the jumbotron, she does the beer chug out of the prosthetic leg, and it's become our tradition. It's a Utah Mammoth thing now.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine, like people showing up. Like, is there going to be like a special day just for people that have prosthetics? They show up and chug from your prosthetic leg or arm or whatever.
Is it bad to say that I hope it catches on?
Well,
I hope more people do it. I want more people to do it because I think it's funny and awesome. But so far, she's the only one.
imagine one day somebody shows up with a prosthetic head, and that'll be interesting. Right?
I don't know if you can chug out of that one, but
I know. Well, Alex, thank you so much, man. How you been?
Good, man. Good. Like I said, it's always good to jump on with you guys. It's always good to catch up and talk some soccer, talk some MLS, talk RSL like and everything. Life's always hectic. Working in this business, because when you think you have some time off, you really don't, because something's always happening in sports. And so been jumping around from soccer coverage to high school sports coverage to hockey coverage to basketball and everything in between, man. It's always a busy time, and it's always fun, but at the end of the day, happy to talk some soccer, man.
Yeah, I was actually amazed at how massive that studio is, where you work. It was really cool. And then a week or two ago, I saw this. You or somebody had retweeted you doing. I think it was high school sports or college
Yeah.
sports, right?
Some high school soccer. Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, dude, I know that voice. That's my boy Alex. That's
Yeah,
so
man.
cool. You're living the dream, dude.
I'm so lucky I'm very, very lucky to be able to do what I do. I love it, man.
So maybe one day you'll be like the Vince Scully of RSL, right?
We'll see, man. We'll see.
Hey, you never know. Once again, I was going to say I want to thank you for having me as a guest on the RSL show. While I was in Utah, for a lot of people that maybe didn't know, I was out in Utah. I think like late March, early April. I was there for like 7 to 10 days, and I got to spend some time with Alex. He invited me over to the station, and for a very late night, like recording, I was like, what, 11:30, something like that.
I think we start at like 11:30.
Yeah, but it was fun, right? We were just chatting and talking about MLS and our both our clubs. And at the time, LA Galaxy had dug like a little ditch, and my God, it has turned into like a black hole, right? Where like the singularity is so powerful that it sucks all life and light out of anything that gets near it. And now RSL is about to fall into that singularity, right? That black hole. So, damn.
A lot has changed in the, I guess, what, month and a half that we saw each other. So
Yeah, yeah. Before we get into that, just we want to briefly touch upon what happened in that match against San Jose. You can cut in whatever you want, Alex, because it's one thing to be there watching your team lose like this on a constant basis or give up uh, points, right? So many points that they've lost in so many different fashions and ways. It's one thing to be there in the epicenter. It's another thing to get a different perspective. I know we're going to talk about that in particular, but this last match against San Jose was particularly interesting because coming into the match, we had gotten reports that San Jose wasn't exactly in the best shape possible. They were missing several people. Arango wasn't available, and several other players were not going to be there. Um, Joseph Martinez hasn't been himself. He's been dealing with some nagging injuries as well, and the choice goalkeeper at San Jose wasn't available either. So they have this backup who apparently gives up goals by the buckets. So a lot of people were saying, and even our good friend Saz Sarabi, who covers San Jose, was saying, "Yeah, you guys should win this one." But how many times have we heard that throughout this year? I mean, it got to the point where like even our buddy Bob Ventimiglia, who covers MLS and for the Red Bulls, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know about picking any more wins for LA Galaxy because I know he had said that it was a great time to bet on the Galaxy in this last match, and no, they lost. So much for that.
to be fair, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, that's what we all think. But I think my soul has been ripped out completely at this point. And so I was watching this last match against San Jose, and I was sitting next to Eddie, one of our co-hosts here in News Across the Galaxy, and he was like, "You know what? If they score, don't even get up and celebrate. You just sit here." And then no sooner had he said that than Mateus Nascimento, our young Brazilian forward, like ran into space and shot the ball into the net. And Eddie actually got up and went like, "Yeah." And I was just looking at him, and then literally a second later, it was flagged offside. We were very confident that it wasn't offside, but when I went back and looked at the replay, I was like, "Yeah, he was offside by like a foot," which sucks. And Galaxy just looked lifeless, and they had no imagination in that final third. I'm sure this match has been dissected every which way possible in the last 24 hours. After the match, which Galaxy lost obviously 1-0, the players approached the supporters in the V Block area in the North End, and the supporters were chanting, "We want better. We deserve better," pretty much. Greg Vanny approached the supporters and said a few words, um, fessing up. But how many times can you fess up the season? We look at the players. You see players running the emotional range from being stunned to angry, despondent, and some of them just even looked completely like clocked, like they're not even there. Like they look like they're just not even checking in. So a lot of people come to conclusions, and then you have other supporters. I mean, fans of other teams checking in on me, but like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. I've been asked this a million times. At this point, I have no words to describe what's going on. You get the same response from anybody who covers the team. It's like we run out of ways to describe what's going on. I've gone from me personally. I've gone from describing this season as a roaring dumpster fire to a roaring landfill fire at this point, which is polluting the landscape, the MLS landscape. So it's really bad. It's like kind of like in The Simpsons where they have that one tire fire that's always there, and they can't ever put it out. It's kind of like that. So after and to make things worse, Marco Roche, who wasn't expected to play the full 90. Well, he at one point in the match he just sat there on the field. At first, we were like wondering like what's going on. Is he throwing a fit, or is he just like done? And then it turns out that he picked up an injury. After the match, Greg Fanny said something to the effect of, "It doesn't look good," and scuttlebutt is it might be a hamstring injury. So hamstring injuries, of course, those you can't ever take lightly because if you keep playing on a gimpy hamstring, it's gonna get worse, and then eventually it could be lead to a long term absence. But yeah, man, it's getting pretty gnarly out here. Um, like I said, some fans are still angry, which is funny because some fans still have that sense of emotion. Me personally, I'm an old Clippers fan. Me and Brian are both Clippers, and we've been through like hell and back many times. And just when the Clippers give you hope, they always rip it away from you. So this is not new. This is not a new feeling for me, but I have never seen this in LA Galaxy. So to me, as a Galaxy fan, this is uncharted waters. This is unheard of. I can't even describe what's going on. It's just amazing. Um, but Alex, it looks like things have kind of gone sideways for RSL since they easily dispatched Galaxy way back in April. What happened?
I think personally, what has changed for Real Salt Lake is, I mean, you got to go back to the winter window first and foremost. You lost, I can't even remember the exact number, exactly what it was, but you lost 47 goals and you didn't replace much of that production. And it's showing now. I think in the early parts of the season, we were getting away with picking up a couple wins here and there, thanks to Diego Luna for the most part. But I think now teams have figured out that if you're able to take Luna out of the game, it gets really hard for Real Salt Lake to create opportunities. You don't have a true number 9 on this roster. You don't have a true goal scorer. Diego Luna can't do it all by himself. While he does a lot to kind of pull the strings in the midfield and create offensively for Real Salt Lake, at the end of the day, he can't do it all by himself. And right now, the supporting cast just isn't there for Luna. And I feel like that's a big reason as to why Real Salt Lake is struggling. Right, you don't score goals, you don't take the pressure off your defense. Your defense can only hold for so long. I don't think defensively Real Salt Lake is playing poor necessarily. I just think that defensive mistakes are, after sustained pressure is leading to Real Salt Lake conceding some goals. And I think once you concede the first one, it kind of takes the wind out of the sails, because at that point it feels like this team realizes that they really struggle to score goals. We're 16 games into the season, or heading into game 17, or however many we're at, and Nuhu from the Seattle Sounders is still tied with with our leading goal scorers. So with an own goal. So that's kind of where you're at right now with Real Salt Lake.
Own goals. That's something that Galaxy is very good at, by the way.
That's good to know.
Now, I know you and I we chatted before and after I was on the show with you in Salt Lake about what led to Chicho Arango's departure, which is something I'm not going to mention here as well. But I have heard from fans and supporters and podcasters from both LAFC and San Jose Earthquakes now that Chicho has a certain, well, certain extracurricular activities that it's just something. It's like a certain habit of his, and which has worn out his welcome, I guess, in 2 different locations now at this point. And although we're not going to get into that particularly, it did impact the future of Diego Luna's career, right? Which is something you shared with me. Do you mind talking about that? How, because of Chicho's actions.
Yeah, we won't get into the specifics of his actions or really what went on behind the scenes, but I feel like there was a sentiment where we also like we're at a point where there was a situation in the locker room that needed to be addressed. Your superstar player, your captain, your leading goal scorer, which just wasn't setting a good example in the locker room for a guy like Diego Luna, who is young, who is still learning and still kind of gaining that experience. And so the club felt it was just in their best interest to move on from the situation, right? Chicho wanted to move on. Real Lake wanted to move on. And so that eventually led to Chicho Rango being traded to the San Jose Earthquakes for essentially a bag of chips. And that's kind of why you're in the situation that you're in right now.
Yeah, and it's those things. It's those things that happen when you least expect them that really hurt you. I know a lot of people over here are still complaining about what LA Galaxy went through, especially at the end of the last season, the beginning of this season, having to give up so many players because of salary cap restrictions. But that is something that we kind of knew was going to happen. Well, we didn't expect where the rash of injuries over here. And I know that early on, when you and I spoke, we were discussing that. We're like, hey, man, we have injuries. We lost all these different players, but we're gonna be okay. I remember me saying we're gonna be all right. I have a feeling we're gonna be all right. But we're at a point in the season when you look at the table and you're like, that that is who you are, right? This is a reflection of what you've done and who you are now, and probably what it's going to be like for the rest of the season, unless something really dramatic happens. Which it's sports; it could happen, but at a professional level, it's very rare. Um, so since we're almost near the halfway point of the season, you look at what Real Salt Lake has done, right? And like I mentioned in the intro, only one win in the last nine. This is almost as bad as the LA Galaxy at this point. Is this what you expected of RSL at the heading into the season? I know you mentioned you lost Chicho, but is this was really expected?
Absolutely not. Again, heading into the off season, you're feeling pretty good, right? Real Lake didn't necessarily have the best end of the season last year. Chicho dramatically fell off after that mysterious suspension, and then you have struggling to score goals, struggling to get wins in the second half of the season, but ultimately leads to a pretty decent playoff berth, and enough to get you into the CONCACAF Champions League. And so it felt like Real Lake were really just a couple of pieces away from being a really true contender in Major League Soccer. And then all of a sudden, Chicho gets traded. Matt Crooks asks to go back to Europe. Andres Gomez, of course, sold last summer to the European League, sold to France, and then you know you have a bunch of roster spots open, and the ability to fill those up, bringing in uh, you know maybe a big name to kind of help you out, but instead Real Lake decides to go the young route and decides to kind of focus a little bit more on the youth development. Um, and bring in young guys with potential. And so far, uh, there hasn't really the potential's there. It hasn't really been shown on the field yet. And so coming into the season, I did have a little bit more hopes and a little bit more expectations, considering how Real Lake was last season and how they played last season. But that quickly has been diminished, as it seems like now the team is more focused on just developing academy guys and young guys and allowing them those minutes. And we're kind of seeing that reflected on the table right now. 12th place, 15 points through 16 games. And head coach Pablo Mastroeni has also talked about you can't really expect this team to be near the top right now, considering how many young guys are playing.
And we've been through a kind of era like that before as well. The Kurt Onalfo era. It was like he was managing the Galaxy 2, Los Dos, which was our developmental squad over here at the USL level, I want to say. And the team was looking to kind of retool themselves, try to bring back some excitement with some younger players. And let me tell you, it did not work. There were maybe two, three players out of that came out okay, but it was a pretty it wasn't a good experiment. It was trying to be kind of a disaster, and the team. It took the team a while to get back. So I understand what I understand what you're talking about. It's like when you throw out the academy kids or young players out there. It's like you're rolling a dice, and you don't know what you're gonna get. Um,
And I understand from like a
yeah,
coach's perspective, like you have to find the balance between allowing academy kids to grow and learn and play, but at the same time it has to lead to some results, I guess. But we're not seeing that right now with Real Salt Lake, and I think again it comes back to them just struggling to score goals. But I'm all for the youth development, right? I'm all for allowing kids to find themselves and figure themselves out on the field and earn game time experience, especially if they're coming onto the field and playing really well. But at the same time, you have to find that balance. You can't sacrifice winning and you can't sacrifice results just for the, I guess, just for the sake of letting kids play.
yeah. I was gonna ask you that then, because we're at a point in our season where people are saying just do whatever, right? They were saying just put out the younger guys or guys that aren't getting minutes and see what sticks. It's something that a lot of people were asking for with our young Brazilian forward Mateus Nascimento, who I just mentioned. Um, or is RSL at that point now where they're like, I know you said that winning is still a priority, but is it at this, is having the young guys there trying to develop gonna get to the point where like you guys were like, okay, we're not gonna make the playoffs. Let's just focus on development, or are you still hoping to get in there somehow?
I think eventually, if the results aren't there, eventually you get to that point where you have to kind of wave the white flag and say, look, this isn't going to be our season. The playoffs probably aren't in the picture, and you have to wave that white flag and just kind of focus on finding wins like that, finding wins in the development of the young guys. But I think that Real Salt Lake, being in 12th place, being in 15 with 15 points, they're not too far off a play-in spot. They're not too far below the playoff line, period. And so I don't think Real Salt Lake's at that point yet where you can completely wave the white flag and say, look, we're just going to kind of toss this season aside and just focus on the development of the youth. There's still a lot to be played for, right? There's still a lot. I think Real Salt Lake can still position themselves in a playoff spot with a couple of wins here and there, but right now the results just aren't showing it. Winless in the last six, and we're really really close to going the entire month of May without a win, and so I think that's why this game is so important for Real Salt Lake this weekend.
Right there with you, man. It's like two race cars out of control, and they're about to smash into each other. I mean, that's a nice way of putting it. I could say something darker, like two ships lost in the dark, rudderless, and they're on the collision course. One of them is gonna sink even deeper. I don't think you guys can sink any deeper than us. Um, we have a super chat, Bryant. That was my spirit leading me after that last loss to RSL. I mean, to RSL and to San Jose Earthquakes. But Adam, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the $2 super chat. It's a question for you, Alex. He asks, "How has Pablo Mastroeni, a former G, by the way, been with RSL?"
Pablo, he's been good. I think this season isn't necessarily really a reflection of Pablo Mastroeni and more a reflection of the front office and the chief soccer officer, whatever they call it these days, and the ability to build a roster and to retool a roster. I think Pablo Mastroeni, for the most part, has done the best he can with what he's got. It's hard to win games when you don't replace the DP9. It's hard to win games when the DP that is on your roster is suspended or not traveling with the team because of disciplinary reasons, right? This is a league I feel like that is really based on because of the way the rosters are set up, because of the way the DP rule is set up, because of the way U22 is set up. You find success in your DPs. You find success in your U22s. If you hit on your U22s and your DPs, that's what ultimately leads to success in Major League Soccer. Right now, Real Salt Lake is not in a position where they can rely on DP play because we have a DP spot open after a failed transfer this summer or this winter, and then you have a DP who's not with the team right now because he's not training well and he's not disciplinary reasons, and he's having disciplinary reasons or disciplinary actions in training. And so I think Pablo Mastroeni is honestly doing the best he can with what he's got. I do think that there's been significant development in a guy like Diego Luna, a guy like Xavier Gozo, who you guys will see on Saturday. He's done a really good job of developing some of these younger guys and these younger talents. And so that's kind of where I kind of give kudos to Pablo Mastroeni. Where he does struggle, though, is kind of in-game adjustments, right? There's been times where a substitution was clearly needed, or a change in the way that the Real State was approaching the game was clearly needed, but the adjustments weren't made, and so that's where I'll knock him. Tactical adjustments and substitution patterns sometimes questionable, but for the most part, I feel like he's doing the best with what he's got.
Yeah, my next question was going to be about potential transfers this summer for RSL. But listening to you talk about the failed transfer for the DP, I'm kind of I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want to ask you. Okay, you're running RSL, right? Let's say you're there in the front office, right? How do you sell Real Salt Lake and the city of Salt Lake City to a potential designated player, or like not a megastar, but like a good solid player from either Europe or South America? What are some of the selling points that you would give them about the club and the city? I've been in the city. I think it's a beautiful place to live. And raise a family, but how would you explain that to somebody?
I think for the most part, obviously the city, the mountains. If somebody's coming in there, they like the outdoors. You got to sell them with the outdoor lifestyle and the outdoor living here in Utah and Salt Lake City. But when it comes to someone who just wants to come in and purely focus on the sport and focus on his development and uh, focus on their success and the success of the team, I feel like for the longest time, Rouse Lake had one of the best facilities in Major League Soccer. They had a facility built out in Harriman back in 2016. It's freaking beautiful. There's a nice view of the mountains. It's easily one of the best facilities in the league, and so that's been a selling point a lot for Real Salt Lake. Is having the facilities to help these guys grow and succeed.
Yeah, definitely. I like the stadium and I like the location. I think that with the proper amount of success for this club, I think they could be a really big hit within the city because, as we've seen with the Utah Hockey Club, granted NHL is more of an institution in American sports, but we've seen the rise of MLS, or especially over the last decade, and I feel like Salt Lake City, um, with a little bit of a push, with somebody with a little bit more star power, could really take over the entire city. Because as you were explaining to me, and we've seen, if you're an NBA fan, the Utah Jazz aren't really doing much. And right now, the Utah Mammoth, right, are kind of still finding their footing. It looks like they're going to have a pretty good 2026. But if anybody could maybe get some of that attention, it could be RSL. Um, it kind of happened right when they won MLS Cup, because that was kind of a surprise. But all it takes is one big name, and this is what I'm asking: are there any potential transfers to RSL this summer?
Not that I've heard of yet, but there's going to be room to make deals, and there's going to be room to make changes. Like I mentioned, you have a DP spot open. There was so Robert Bosnick was supposed to come over from Boa Vista. Boa Vista, uh, at the last minute, came back and changed the fee, kind of changed a bunch of things about the transfer. Rouse Lake didn't appreciate it, so they pulled out, and it fell dead at the deadline. Which was not fun, considering you need to you lose Chicho, you need to replace a Chicho, right? So you have a DP spot open in the summer to make a move. You have an open DP spot to make to splash at something and really bring in what can potentially be that Chicho replacement, what can be a DP9 replacement. Pablo Mastroeni has said in press conferences already this season that he's going to be very, very surprised if Diego Luna is with the team after the summer. Diego Luna right now is not just garnering attention from a Major League Soccer perspective, but He's really starting to break through and kind of find his spot with the U.S. men's national team. He's on the provisional roster heading into these friendlies that are coming up in June. I'd be very shocked if he wasn't on the Gold Cup roster. If I'm being honest. Um, so I think Rouse Lake are preparing to move on from Diego Luna this summer. So that opens up a U22 spot. On top of that, you have a DP who I think is trying to force his way out because he doesn't want to be with Rouse Lake anymore, and that's totally fine. You move on from him. You have two DP spots open and a U22 spot open in the summer that you can really make a splash with. Those are three really important roster spots that you might have open this summer to make a splash. And I think that Rouse Lake are going to want to make that splash if they want to have a shot at making the playoffs.
Yeah, and you mentioned Diego Luna, and one of the things that you had told me when you and I met was that um, the fact that Chicho had to leave the team kind of nixed a potential big move for Diego Luna. Can you elaborate on that one? Because I remember, and we're gonna get to that super chat right now, Adam. So thank you so much. But you mentioned a big name, right, in international footy, especially for us. Where was Diego Luna heading to?
There was rumors and there was rumblings that Diego Luna was ready to move to a club in Liga MX. He was ready to make a jump over to Liga MX and take that next step in his career. Ultimately, though, that ended up changing with the plans of Chicho Arango coming and leaving Real Salt Lake. So as soon as Chicho left, this really became Diego Luna's team, and he's ran with it, man. He's absolutely ran with it. Right now, he's the leading goal scorer. Like I said, he's kind of really the driving force of the attack. The anything going forward for Real Lake runs through Diego Luna, and it's caught the eyes of Mauricio Pochettino, and it's caught the eyes of the U.S. men's national team. And so again, I'm going to be very, very surprised if he's not on that Gold Cup roster. And I fully expect him to go in and continue to impress at the Gold Cup. And so I think the fan base, and even head coach Pablo Mastroeni are going to be shocked if he's still with Real Lake following the closing of the European window.
Yeah, and speaking of, as a non RSL fan, he's one of those players in RSL, I mean, in MLS that you look at and you're like, yeah, this guy's pretty marketable. I know he has all the tattoos and everything, but he's not exactly like a scruffy guy. He's just a really hard-working, hard-nosed guy who finds a way to put the ball in the net. And you're right. I see a potentially bright future with him with the national team, and he's somebody I can definitely imagine cheering for, like in a World Cup. So we have another super chat over here. Um, that'll be, that's gonna be my soul leaving me on Saturday after RSL wins. By the way, so Adam, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Adam asks, "What happened to Beavers and McMath, two goalkeepers?"
Zach McMath is still on the roster. Zach McMath had surgery. I can't remember if it was the shoulder or where. I'm pretty sure it was his shoulder though. He had surgery in the off season that was going to leave him out long term, and so Real Lake made some changes in the goalkeeper room this offseason, including Gavin Beavers, who was sold off to Brøndby in Sweden, and now Gavin Beavers is playing in Sweden. That's why he's no longer with Real Salt Lake. But Zach McMath still on the roster. He's just out with a long-term injury, and I don't think he's anticipated to be back until really the tail end of the season. I think October, September was probably his timeline. So again, Real Salt Lake knew they weren't going to count on him. So Rafa Cabral came in on a free transfer, former Napoli, former Reading, former Brazilian goalkeeper, and he's been phenomenal. He's probably been. Look, Real Lake did make some signings this winter window, but not a lot of them have really panned out yet. The only one that's kind of panned out has been Rafa Cabral, who, you have sporting director and special operations guy Jason Kreis, who legendary head coach here, won MLS Cup in 2009 with Real Lake. Now he's working in the front office. He's come out and he's publicly said that he is Real Lake's best player right now, and so Rafa Cabral has been a phenomenal replacement, but. To answer your question, Beavers sold to Brøndby and McMath just out long term with injury.
Well, let's start switching things towards this match. Obviously, we talked about how things have gone for RSL. And I know, you're probably like wondering, like, what's it going to take to fix things? Well, if you look at the schedule, who's up next? The LA Galaxy, right? And it's funny. I bring this up because it, in all the conversations I've had on the midweek show with other podcasters, everybody comes in, right, and they're like, "Yeah, our team isn't doing so well, and we could really use a win." And then they win against Galaxy, and then all of a sudden, things are fixed for them, or they jump up the table. And I kind of had that feeling when RSL beat the Galaxy way back in April. But no, right? Things have been kind of bad for RSL as well. But my God, Alex, my God, it has not been as bad as the LA Galaxy. And I love to hear these perspectives from other people. From your point of view, what are your thoughts on this completely disastrous 2025 season for LA Galaxy?
It's shocking, man. Um, you guys just won MLS Cup. by far, by far last season's team was one of my favorite to watch. I think Brugman in the midfield with Ricky Puig and Gabriel Peck and Pansel were some of my favorite players, and some of my favorite guys to watch last season. And then now you turn that around to what you've seen this season, and it's honestly shocking. How I mean, this whole winless streak for the Galaxy, you're entering territory now that hasn't been touched since Real Lake lost eight or went winless in 18 games, right? And then there was the Metro Stars who went winless in 19. You guys are close to record-breaking winless streaks, and so it's shocking considering the fact that you guys won MLS Cup last season.
Yeah, I always think to myself, it could be worse. I think was Sporting Kansas City. They lost like 13 or 15. I mean, not winless, but they straight up lost. Like I think 15 matches in a row or something like that, dating back across 2 seasons, and that pretty much ended Peter Vermees's time with
Right,
SKC.
right.
So things could be worse, right?
Yeah, I always tell my co-hosts right after we're talking, because I mean we've been talking about some losses and some negative results a lot recently, and so I always tell my co-hosts, look, it could be worse. We could be the Galaxy.
Damn. Hey, we're that common denominator, right? Damn. So, I know we're gonna really get into like discussing the preview of this match. But just let's answer this right now. Adam, $2 super chat. Oh, there you go, Alex. That's gonna be your soul leaving your body if Galaxy somehow wins this weekend, right?
Absolutely.
So, Adam, $2 super chat. He asked, "Who are RSL starting center backs for each match?"
Starting center backs right now, when healthy and not suspended, it's Justin Glad and Brian Vera. Those are by far heads and shoulders above the best center backs Real Lake have on the roster. Justin Glad, you guys are familiar with him. He's been on this team forever. Super solid in the back. Brian Vera is kind of our tank, kind of our enforcer. He's the guy who's not afraid to get down and dirty, and put in a crunching tackle to win the ball. Sometimes he he gets in a little too much and gets his cards, but very solid alongside Justin Glad. That partnership has been really, really solid. Justin Glad last season, in the early parts of the season, he did enough to kind of put himself into all-star consideration and all-star conversations, but got hurt with a hamstring about halfway through the season. And then since then, he hasn't been the same Justin Glad. And I'm still kind of waiting to see if he's able to get back to those same heights, because I haven't seen all-star Justin Glad since he got hurt last season.
Let me tell you, man, I used to be a center back, and sometimes you just got to remind people, that you exist, and you will like make their afternoon a living misery. So,
That's what Brian
you know,
Vera does. That's what Brian Vera does.
no, I mean, you got to throw an elbow in there or a little shot to the kidneys, and they learn to respect you. It's worth Sometimes it's worth the yellow card, but
Oh,
it's it's
absolutely.
it's, it's all good, right? So, so let's talk all-time records between RSL, which at this point has become an old rival, right? In the West, all-time records. LA Galaxy and Real Salt Lake have faced each other 52 times in a regular season. We're not going to talk about the playoffs, all right? Damn it, because we know how that ended in 2009. But 52 matches in the regular season. Galaxy has 21 wins. RSL has 18, and there's 13 draws between them. So pretty even. Um, and then we go into the player availability report. Actually, before that, just real quick, let's cover the last time, obviously, that Galaxy and RSL played each other was earlier this year and April 5th. This was at America First Field. Uh, LA Galaxy looked completely lost, listless. One of in a season which has been just absolute chamber of horrors. This was one of the worst matches the team has played all season. Uh, I know several people that were out there at the same time I was. Obviously, I didn't get to attend the match, but I know several people that made the trip out there and then later regretted it. But that's the nature of away footy and MLS, and especially in a season like LA Galaxy's been having. You're gonna have a lot of stinkers. At least it wasn't like the poor lads and lasses that had to travel all the way out to Jersey to watch Galaxy get absolutely dissected against the Red Bulls. But yeah, that's the last time these two teams faced each other. Player availability report. Obviously, LA Galaxy, we're still missing Ricky Puig. Um, and just to keep in mind that Carlos Emilio Garces is one yellow card away from a suspension and fine. Alex, I looked at RSL's roster, and my God, you guys have a lot of players out or questionable. Can you give us the deets on that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Zach McMath out with a long-term injury. He's been out all season. Matthew Bell's out with a long-term injury. Hasn't played for us like yet. Uh, we just lost our captain, Emeka Nelly, who picked up a stress fracture against Vancouver in that Vancouver game last Saturday. And so our captain's out long term. Emeka Nelly, who's usually an engine in the midfield, one of the double pivots for Real Salt Lake, and the captain, he's unavailable and he's going to be out long term. Javane Brown, who is out long term with an ACL injury, and then Diogo Gonçalves, who's the DP I was talking about earlier. Diogo has been he's been out dealing with a heel injury. From what my understanding and from what I've heard, again, he's back. He's healthy. He's not dealing with a heel injury anymore. He's been back in training, kind of working off alone, off to the side, trying to get back to fitness. But again, his attitude and his training haven't been up to Real Lake standards. So he will be unavailable because he didn't make the trip because he's out with disciplinary issues.
Well, thank you. Uh, so this is what I'm going to ask you. Right, we talked about how both teams are not doing so well, but Alex, what's it going to take for LA Galaxy to defeat RSL this time around?
I alluded to it. I alluded to it a little bit earlier, and it's as easy as taking Luna out of the game. If you are able to effectively shut down Diego Luna, it becomes really, really difficult for Real Lake to get really much going in the attack. Luna is the driving force. Diego Luna, everything that goes forward for Real Lake, it runs through Diego Luna. If you are able to neutralize Diego Luna and kind of force him out of the game and do just a phenomenal job defending Luna, that's probably going to give you your best shot. Defensively, like I said, they do well holding up, but eventually it gets to the point where you can put so much pressure on the defense and before they break, and once you break them, once you get that first goal, it feels like this team kind of loses their breath, kind of loses that ability to get forward, just because they know that they're struggling to score goals right now. So if you're able to score the first goal, you got a pretty good shot. And honestly, I feel like Ross Lake in the last couple games have also kind of struggled to hold leads. In the game against Austin, you're up 1-0 on the road, and then you allow them a 93rd minute winner. And then against Vancouver, you're up 2-0 at home, and then Vancouver comes back to win that game 3-2. So even if you're down to Real Lake, it's not over because as long as you got hope, you got a shot, I guess. And that's kind of where Real Lake is at right now. You take Luna out of a game, and you got a pretty good shot.
Yeah, you mentioned that loss to Vancouver, and my goodness, I'm paying very close attention to what's going on in Vancouver, and they're having a fantastic season. Like, kind of reminds me of what LA Galaxy did last year, but the run that they're going on in the Champions Cup is also admirable.
Absolutely.
They have this match this weekend. Oh my goodness! I don't care what team you cheer for in MLS, even if it's Montreal or TFC. I think we're all pulling for Vancouver in this match. I feel like this is a long time coming for them, and they really ran. They went through the gauntlet to get there. They
Yeah.
worked their asses off. So hopefully they get it across the finish line, and we get to see our buddy Nathan Jurek and Josh, just celebrating like a bunch of crazy Canadians.
Look, man. Right now, the team that I cover isn't doing the best, and so I'm going to take a minute to geek out on Vancouver. I think it's phenomenal. Vancouver is one of those teams I feel like is just hard to hate, right? I feel
Yeah,
like no matter how the season's going for the Vancouver Whitecaps, they're a pretty likable team. They got former Real Slate guy and Demir Krylak on the team too, so it makes it even easier to like them. And the fact that Jasper Torresson has come into the season, come into Vancouver in his first year, he's only been there a couple months, and I remember heading into the preseason, they didn't even have a head coach. He got hired like a couple days before they started their preseason training. And so massive credit to Vancouver for what they've been able to do, dude. They are by far right now the best team in Major League Soccer, and I really hope that they can pull it off, man. I would love to see Vancouver win a Champions League or a Champions Cup, whatever we're calling it these days.
yeah. Uh, as long as we're talking about that, I just remember, I think it was 2013 when RSL made it to the final.
Yeah,
I remember I went to a bar in Pasadena. I was living in Pasadena at the time, and I went to a bar in Pasadena, and I sat there with several cold drinks and watching RSL, and I was really pulling for RSL in that match, and then to see them lose in the end was so heartbreaking. I remember I felt bad for El Salt Lake, because it's not often we get a Major League Soccer team that makes it to the final of a tournament like this, and I really felt that team has such a good shot, man. RSL was going through such a good era at the time as well. I don't know if you remember that, do you?
I do. Yeah. So there was the CONCACAF Champions Cup final against Monterrey in 2011. Then you follow that up with a U.S. Open Cup run to the final in 2013, and then you have an MLS Cup run in 2013 as well. That team was meant for more. That team was meant for some silverware, but unfortunately just fell short three times. 2011 against Monterrey here at home.
Yeah,
2013 against the DC United here at home, and then losing to Sporting Kansas City in a I think it was like 14 round shootout
man.
to Sporting Kansas City in frozen Kansas. Like I said, dude, that team was meant for more. And I think a lot of the fan base still has nightmares about that era because it was such a successful era for Real Salt Lake, and it's probably been the last successful era for Real Salt Lake, and they just came short three times.
Yeah, that 2013 final was one of my favorite MLS Cups that I've seen, not just because of the dramatic end of the match, but also because the whole buildup. It was so cold, right? And you could tell the fans were freezing in the stands, and they had the tifos out, and you could tell like both fan bases brought the energy. Obviously, Kansas City's playing at home, but RSL was well represented as well. And it gave us I think, one of the most entertaining MLS Cups we've seen in a while, even though you guys lost, right? But I just felt like whoever was going to win that was well deserving because it was one that came down to the wire, obviously. Um, so let's talk about the ref report. A lot of people, these days we've been focusing a lot on the referees. It doesn't matter for LA Galaxy at this point. It doesn't matter if it's a ref that doesn't like LA Galaxy, like demons like John Freeman and Jeff Fisher, or Drew Fisher, I'm sorry. Or it could be like a nice referee, like the one we're getting this time. Galaxy will always find a way to lose, right? But this time around, our referee is Rubiel Vasquez. Um, Rubiel Vasquez, in addition to MLS, has refereed in various CONCACAF competitions, including the Nations League and CONCACAF qualifiers for the World Cup. He's also refereed the U.S. Open Cup, Leagues Cup, NASL, and USL, and also Liga MX Sub-20, which is kind of interesting. Since 2017, he has refereed in 123 MLS regular season matches, 7 of those with LA Galaxy for a record of 4 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss, with 3 wins and 2 draws and 0 losses at home. Oh my God. He's done 10 matches with RSL for 3 wins, 4 draws, and 3 losses. And would you believe it? 0 wins, 4 draws, and 2 losses away. We're going to lose. Vasquez's last LA Galaxy match was a 2-0 win versus Atlanta United at home on August 24th, 2024. He handed out 2 yellows to LA Galaxy, 1 to ATL, and surprise, surprise, his last RSL match was a 5-2 win versus Atlanta as well. At home on July 6th, 2024, he handed out 1 yellow to RSL and 2 to ATL. Um, this is going to be his 12th match of 2025. So far, he has handed out 40 yellow cards, no red cards, but he's handed out 5 penalty kicks. So take that as you will. So in case you're keeping track, he's averaging 3.63 yellows per game. I find it funny, Alex, that no red cards but 5 penalty kicks. So kind of interesting. And of course, and you heard me mention there, RSL has never won on the road with him. Galaxy's never lost at home with him. So hey, and this is where we get into the predictions. And since you're the guest, we let you have first dibs, man. Go for
Oh
it.
man, putting him on the spot here. Um, Look, I think at this point it's written in the stars. Real Lake is not coming into this one in the best of form. The Galaxy, isn't coming into this in the best of forms. I think both teams desperately need 3 points. It's going to come down. I feel the pessimism in me says that the Galaxy are going to win. This is going to be the LA Galaxy's first win of the season, and it's going to come to Real Lake because that's just what the MLS script says.
You sound just like Saz did, and right before in the preview for this match against San Jose, he's like, "Man, we're hurting. We're missing so and so." He was like, "It's written in the stars. I've been having nightmares about it. I did the whole thing with the tea leaves, and I said we were gonna lose. And look, in the end, LA Galaxy found a way to lose the match anyway." I even interviewed. I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but I do interviews with fans, not just Galaxy fans, but just MLS fans in general. It's very interesting. I've ran into a family, and I spoke to a father and daughter. Um, the dad was wearing a New England Revolution hat, and he's wearing like a T-shirt that had Gillette Stadium on it. And his daughter was wearing an Earthquakes jersey, right? So I'm like, what's going on, right? And so they went on to explain to me that they're from Boston. I mean, I'm sorry, they're from Connecticut. They're from Connecticut, so they're from the New England area, and they're Revolution fans. So why the Quakes? Well, because Bruce came over and he brought over 7 Rebs. So they call the Earthquakes Rebs West, and that they happen to be in town, and they're gonna cheer for the Quakes, and his daughter was wearing the Quakes jersey, and she was like, "Yeah, we're gonna try and get the attention of certain players because we want to get their uniforms. Obviously former Rebs players." And then almost in the same breath, her father said something to the effect of like, we actually like the LA Galaxy. And I was kind of shocked. I was like, man, we beat you guys 3 times in MLS Cup. How could you like the Galaxy? And he's like, yeah, we like the LA Galaxy. He goes, we actually traveled to Red Bull Arena or Sports Illustrated Stadium, excuse me, to watch the game against Red Bull. And he's like, we were hoping you guys would win. And I'm like, dear God, you have to bring up that game again. That's 7-0, smashing. But he's like, both of them said, we think LA Galaxy is gonna win tonight. Actually, his daughter said, I think San Jose can win. But her dad was like, no, I think I think it's time for Galaxy to win this one. And no, no. So
Look, man, I've seen the script. It's gonna happen.
no,
The
no.
Galaxy. Look, I'm trying to give you. I'm trying to give you and the Galaxy fans a little bit of hope.
There's no hope there, man. It's like trying to strike a match deep underwater. It ain't gonna
Oh
happen.
no.
I mean, but I will say this: as far as his predictions are concerned, in the last match I predicted a 2-2 draw. That's the most I'm going to give Galaxy at this point. I'm not going to predict any more wins until they actually win a match. I'm on that. I'm on that level right now, and so I'm going to say a very tepid 1-1 draw. Nice little word there, tepid, right? Where it's like it's going to be like two drunk people in a dark room trying to find each other and slap each other and stumbling into everything and knocking over all the furniture in the dark. It's gonna be kind of like that. And then at some point, somebody's gonna slap somebody and knock them over, and the other person's gonna trip over them. So 1-1 draw. And then both teams are gonna be still left wondering what the hell's going on. And for us, after this match, it'll be a 2-week break in which, dear God, if you're LA Galaxy and you're gonna have to wait that long until you get your next crack at getting a win, that's gonna wear on you, man. Because if you can't get a win in this match, and then you have to wait another 2 weeks before you get another shot, that's gonna eat at your soul. But I think at this point, nobody here has a soul left. Anyway, damn,
that
this is like sad boy hours, right?
I see that, man. I see that. Look, like I said, I'm trying to give the Galaxy here the benefit of the doubt, and give you a little bit of hope, in saying that Rouse Lake isn't coming into this in the best of form. You guys can figure it out. You guys can do it at home, but you're over here making it all sad.
I know, it's all Eeyore, huh? Yeah, woe is me. Well, hopefully we see something exciting this weekend. Hopefully something sparks both teams to do something spectacular, because we haven't seen Galaxy win at all. You guys haven't seen RSL win in 6, so maybe something interesting will happen, and then we could have a nice chuckle about it. But for now, I know it's getting late out there in Utah, up in the Rockies. Well, yeah, the Rockies, right? Yeah, the Rockies, right? Rockies.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the Beehive State. So we're gonna let you go, buddy. But before I go, I just want to announce that obviously Galaxy ain't gonna play a match for the next couple weeks after the Saturday's match. So what's gonna happen with the midweek show? You guys are gonna laugh at this. I actually reached out to some podcasters whose teams are like near the bottom with LA Galaxy. So we're talking Montreal, talking Salt Lake City, and our good buddies the Scarves and Spikes, who cover Atlanta. And I reached out to them like a week ago because I'm trying to plan ahead. And I was like, hey guys, I have an idea, since all our teams are like, down in the crapper, right? Why don't we get together and just have like a chat, like a little, just like very relaxed, informal, like pod where we just chit chat and talk about how bad our teams are, and what we hope that they accomplish as the season progresses. And I was going to call it the Wooden Spoon Collective. And then guess what? Atlanta has to go and ruin it by winning the last 2 matches. So I'm like, damn it. But I still kept in touch with those guys, and I'm like, maybe you guys can still come on and tell us what you guys did to fix things, because obviously, we're still trying to figure things out ourselves. So keep a lookout for that, the Wooden Spoon Collective. I'm gonna see if I can make that happen. If not this coming week, maybe the next, God willing. But for now, Alex, if anybody that wants to follow Utah sports, or mostly RSL, where can they find you on socials?
Absolutely. I'm on all social, or I guess on Twitter and Instagram at Napoles Alex. You can find me at Napoles Alex, Napoles Alex, and then there you'll get mostly Real Lake coverage, but I also dip into like I said, some hockey coverage, basketball coverage, high school sports coverage locally here in the city of Utah, and just I kind of have a toe in a little bit of everything here in the state of Utah, and so. Yeah, if you want to follow any of that coverage, if you want to get any more insights on Real Lake, at Napoles Alex is the place.
And I took you to your first hockey game, right?
You did, yeah, you did. My first ever NHL game, my first ever hockey game, was here when the Kings came to visit, and Edgar happened to be in town when that happened. So Edgar and I went and caught a Utah Hockey Club game against the LA Kings, and it was super fun. I like that the arena was cold. Funny enough,
that's how it is.
I mean, obviously, duh, but it beats going into a super hot arena and sweating and being miserable, and so it was super fun. The environment was fun. Seeing everybody kind of rock out at Delta Center was super cool. A lot of Kings fans, if I remember right. There was a lot of Kings jerseys there, including Edgar, who was decked out in his Kings gear, and the Kings ended up winning that one.
Yeah, they came back and won that match. That
Yeah.
was it was a lot of stuff that happened at that game. Like we mentioned the lady with the prosthetic leg chugging beer, but there was a lot of stuff that happened. There was those kids that got knocked out in front of us, right? And then they
Oh
were like
yeah.
they were checking their IDs, and we're
Yeah,
like, damn.
there was a group of I mean they looked like they were like 18, man, and they were in there. Some of them had alcohol and security came over and did some of them get escorted out? I think some of them got kicked out.
Yeah. Oh my
It
god, it
was
was
wild.
weird.
Yeah, it was weird, but it was fun. It was fun.
No, it was really fun. I mean, there was hockey games are just a whole different thing, man. You got so many funny characters. I remember right before we left, I went to go use the restroom, and I don't know if you've seen the bathroom stalls, toilet stalls. There's that company Kohler, right, that makes bathrooms. And so I'm in there doing business, and some guy yells out. He was like, I'm the Lord of the toilet because my name is Kohler. I'm King Kohler, the Lord of the toilet. Everybody started just laughing. We're like, what the
You know
hell?
what? I remember that because it was the same group of kids that were sitting in front of us.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. Look at that. It came full circle.
Yeah, no, it was a hell of a time, man. But thank you so much, Alex. So for me and Bryant and the rest of the News Across the Galaxy crew, we thank you once again for joining us tonight. Thank you for coming on with us, Alex. It's always really nice to have you on here. Hopefully, I get to visit our RSL next season as well. Hopefully, this time we'll plan it so I can actually go to the game, right?
There you go, man.
Maybe I'll catch a Mammoth game. Who knows? As always, we are hoping for an entertaining match with these two lifeless teams. It'll be like a zombie slap fight, right?
Hopefully not. Hopefully there's a little bit more fireworks, man.
Yeah, there you go. Well, as we always say on News Across the Galaxy, hey, keep on nagging and Wu-Tang for life. Let's go.